Beer World always was a little jealous of Wine World because Wine World got a lot of respect and was in fancy restaurants and all this kind of stuff. Beer dinners, I mean, really are pretty much a knockoff of the idea of doing a wine dinner, right?
Yeah.
It's fine. I've been to good beer dinners. I love it. I have like Michael Jackson event with the tutored taste.
Yeah.
There's some amount of pretension to it. Mm-hmm. We all think it's worth it. We all think it's great, whatever. So the first beer week I had a lot of beer dinners, right? So everything was like pairing and stuff like that. And, you know, it's like kind of like, oh, you're having a little fun. And then somebody comes out and like, okay, everybody be quiet. Okay, I'm going to talk about, you know, this beer and why I thought the nuttiness of it matched this thing, whatever it is. And I was like with Scoats, I was like, look, it's starting to sound like these wine things. And I was like, no one's ever said, hey, can I buy you a wine sometime? That's not fucking a thing, right?
Welcome back to the Brew That Podcast. I'm your host, Richie Tevlin, joined as always by Evan Blum.
Hello.
And today we welcome on William Reed, owner of Standard Tap, Johnny Brenda's, and International Bar.
That's right.
Yeah. Cool. So similar to kind of, I guess when Tom Peters came on, like you've been here from the beginning of Philadelphia craft beer, but I guess all the way back from Sam Adams. But can you kind of give a start from the beginning? I guess you said you started when you were 14 years old, but like, where's the official kind of start? Like you're getting into this.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I was saying, I wasn't into craft beer at 14. I won't
into hospitality.
I won't take that. But yeah, I guess it was always, you know, it was just my first job I got, you know, after mowing lawns was, you know, in the restaurant business, washing dishes at this place, you know, busboy, that kind of thing. And all through school, I went to Drexel. That's how I ended up in Philadelphia. I went to Drexel for computer science, and I was always working though, you know, like it's just like that, you know, to be able to afford to go to school. I'm one of 7 kids. Like I'm not, like my parents weren't like just, you know, sending us a check. That wasn't happening. So I was always working while I was at Drexel. And then you also do the co-ops and stuff like that. But when I went out and I did my co-ops, I did a few of them at banks because that's like kind of like where a lot of the computer processing kind of support stuff was. And I wanted to put a bullet in my head. I was just like, I'm just like, no, this is not. Which, in the defense of Drexel, great, I found that out before I graduated.
20% after the costs.
Right, yeah. I was like, wow, I really hate this. Yeah, I have aptitude for it. It's fine, but I was just like, this is terrible. And I always like the more fast-paced, sort of immediate rush of working in a restaurant, a busy restaurant or a bar or whatever. And I was working at this place in West Philly called Zocalo, which was like, it was a brand new restaurant. It was sort of like Nuevo Mexican, you know, it was sort of like, you know, like modern Mexico City Mexican instead of trying to be like another Tex-Mex place. Mm-hmm. And I was at Drexel and doing this thing, and you know, not sleeping very much, obviously, because I was a full-time student and working probably 30 some hours a week. And I would go out after work. I'd go down to McGlinchey's or go wherever with like friends of mine that I worked with. And I met my friend Paul Kimport there, who became my business partner. And he was going to school for music, and we both pretty much realized, like, I think we're going to end up working in restaurants, you know? And so we started talking about, like, how could we got to figure this shit out. Like, what else? We got to do something that we're not just, you know, getting older and older and being in restaurants with younger people and stuff. Like, we got to figure this out a little bit. And craft beer had just started kind of catching on, you know? We're talking about early 90s. And I remember Eddie Friedland used to come in to the place and sell us. It wasn't him, Ed, but Ed's chili beer was kind of like a weird. It's like a craft beer that had like a chili pepper in it, right? Like a jalapeno or something. And you're like,
wait, he
didn't make it. No, he just like started wrapping it. You know, besides Sierra Nevada, that he kind of became famous, you know, as the importer of.
Yeah.
But and Heineken back in the way back in the day. But but I remember like just talking to beer people, and I was kind of lucky. My girlfriend at the time worked at White Dog, and they had they had stouts brewing, the 25 ouncer, the big bottle, right? And I was like, wow, this is really amazing. This is really good. I started homebrewing a little bit, thinking like, I got to get into this. Like if I spent as much effort learning to homebrew or brew, I should say, really, honestly, as I did like getting through Physics 4 at Drexel, I think I'd probably do this, you know? And I remember Carol Stout, Judy Wicks, who owned White Dog, had Carol Stout come out. And they were like having like a mandatory, you know, education thing for their staff. And I said to their manager, I was just like, yo, can I go to that? He's like, oh my God, yes. Like it's like pulling teeth getting anybody to go to these things. And I'm like sitting in the front, you know, I'm like, Carol Stout, I'm like, holy shit.
Wait, did you work there?
No, my girlfriend worked there. Yeah, right.
Gotcha.
So I went to their staff education, but he was like, it looks bad that nobody shows up for these things, you know? So I'm like, I show up and I'm like, you know, she's like, anybody have any questions? I'm like, yeah, I do, whatever. Carol was really charming and funny. I remember her saying at one point she was like talking about the purity of beer and stuff like this. I just remember saying like, you know, in countries that you can't drink the water, beer is safe. Beer can't hurt you. And like you're like kind of like, oh, maybe exaggeration. But she was doing those lovely pilsners way back in the day, and when that was the least cool thing you could do in the beer world. And I always loved her stuff. And it was kind of inspirational. And I talked to my friend Paul, and I was like, I'm going to learn how to brew beer. And we're going to open up a brew pub. Like, that's what we're going to do. Like, this is our plan. And we're like trying to figure out, you know, I never came from a business background. You know, he didn't either. So we were trying to figure out, how do you finance? How do you do this? How do you do all that? You know, and meanwhile, like, you know, beer's getting more and more interesting. Like, you know, it was like Anchor Steam was like a big deal then, you know, and their Christmas beer that was like, whoa, what's this? You know, totally different things. And of course, all the Belgian beer, right? And I just started teaching myself to brew. I was going to Home Sweet Home Brew, which is pretty legendary. Yeah. Right. And George and Nancy, they often comment that I would just go in and sit on the grain sacks and read all the books and buy none of them. It's kind of true. It's true. You know, you do what you can.
Treat it as a library.
Yeah. I would get ingredients from them, but I would just like read the books. And I also I bought professional brewing texts because I was treating my education in beer the way I would think about it with school. Like,
well, you invest into college.
Yeah, like my calculus text costs $120. It's like, yeah, that book costs $120. You know, the principles of brewing, and I'm like, I'm getting that one instead of this, you know, leaflet over here. So I made like oddly, it was in this building. I put a brewery in.
You said you used to live in this building? Yeah,
I did. I lived in this building in Northern Liberties when it was sketchy as shit over here.
Not a podcast studio.
Right? Yeah, what a turnaround, right? That's funny. Yeah, like I think we paid $440 for 4,000 square feet of space upstairs, wow. Right? It's just crazy. But I put a brewery in, and I made like...
In your apartment?
In my apartment. It was like a 15-gallon batch size brewery, which, you know, just like it was like big enough that you're not doing stuff on the stove anymore. Like you get a burner and you get pumps, and you guys probably have some background in this too. So you get pumps and you pump it around and you do that kind of stuff. And I was full on just like, I'm just like, Paul and I are going to open up a brew pub. Like that's what we're doing. And there were only two places that were in Philadelphia that were brew pubs. There was Dock Street Brew Pub down on Cherry Street, their old location, and then Sam Adams had a brew pub. Mm-hmm. And I talked to Dock Street like a lot, and they were like, yeah, like everybody that works here is signed up to work in the brewery, like once they can. Like every single waiter here already has their name in the hat. Mm-hmm. Like you're really not, it's not going to happen.
Get in the back of the line.
Yeah, get in the back of the line. That's fair. Yeah. And Sam Adams only had one brewer working there, Jim Pericles. And I was like, okay, that doesn't seem likely. And so I just was like, I'm just going to teach myself how to brew, and I'll just do this own thing. And we actually even started buying tanks and stuff. We bought some old like pharmaceutical tanks at auction, and we started, okay, we're going to do this. And the guy from Sam Adams decided he wanted to move to Boston and be at the main corporate spot. And so I just heard through a friend that the spot was available. And by that time, I could just walk in, and I was brewing enough at home that I'd be like, oh yeah, I see what you're doing. Not like as a know-it-all, but I get this. Like I see what I see.
There's probably not
works.
many people that were brewing in the brewing industry that knew how to brew at that point.
Right. It
Probably
was
the home brewing community was probably super small.
super small, and also and so most people didn't have like a Siebel's degree or something at the craft brew microbrewery kind of stage, right? So they actually took a chance on me, and they gave me the job, which was great. And then I had 3 weeks to train with them. It was not a long time.
Wow.
And Philly went through the cold snap, and the water to the brewery was shut off for one of those weeks. I was just you're like, oh my God, it's like the fastest crush, how's this going to work?
2 weeks of,
Yeah. And it was super fun. It's a weird brewery, and it's probably hard to people get their head around this now. But at the time, it wasn't that weird. Was that they were brewing it like a way a lot of home brewers do, that they used extract instead of having a mash tun in there. And so it always kind of was like I had my hands tied behind my back.
So was it just a brew kettle and then
brew kettle right into
tanks?
fermenters, right?
Okay.
And so what I would do is just get as much specialty grain in as I possibly could. So if you pillowcase size sacks of crystal malt or whatever hanging in there, doing that kind of stuff to try to get away from the extract sort of characteristics.
So it was Sam Adams was attached to larger Sam Adams in Boston. Were they sending you extract, or were you?
We were getting it in Breeze, and then it switched to I think it was called Sun Country, but a Canadian maltster that had a lot lighter touch on their extract that it didn't all get super caramelized. When Breeze was pretty caramely, and it was hard to ever. It's okay if you're doing certain styles, but you couldn't do a lot of styles well.
That's why homebrewing, everyone makes an amber ale because there's limited things you can
amber. Yeah. Porter, great. Yeah, you're right.
Did Sam Adams also have other locations kind of in different cities too at that point?
So they thought they would. So the guy that David Mank owned the Oyster House on the first floor, which is still there, and his son Sam now owns it. But David sort of oh, what's this craft brew stuff? That sounds cool. And so he had in 90, it was probably 91 or something like that, right before Dock Street opened. He had seen Jim Cook from Boston Beer, from Sam Adams. They both did Outward Bound with disadvantaged youth kind of things.
Yeah.
They'd take them up in mountains and do that kind of stuff. And he talked to him, and he was like, I would love to do this, and they made literally a handshake deal. That those two guys were like, yeah, let's do it. And so they did a 10-year deal. I know, it was just kind of crazy to think of. And, David was the managing partner, and Boston Beer provided the expertise. And when they first did it, they thought, this makes sense, just, extract works and everything. Nobody would do it now. But the state of technology got a lot better. So that's what happened. I mean, the great part with Boston Beer was I go up couple times a year and just brew with those guys on their test systems. They're real beautiful. We get everything. Yeah.
And probably all those guys were formal brewing education and.
Yeah, not all of them. And David Grinnell, who was their head of brewing, had an art school degree, which I always thought was pretty cool. But then they hired everybody. They hired every next person was smarter than the next.
Yeah.
They were good, very good brewers. If you think about Sam Adams got a lot of slag for not owning their breweries and originally, right, which they do own some now. But people would say oh, that's not cool. You're just paying somebody, you're just licensing or something. Try to make the same beer at two different breweries that have been around for 150 years or something, right? These old breweries.
That are hundreds of miles apart from each other.
Hundreds of miles. Water's totally different. Equipment, wildly different. That's crazy hard to do. And they got, those brewers got really, really good. And they didn't really have the same, they couldn't just draw on it the way people do now. Like now it's like kind of like, it's like you can go on YouTube, you can whatever. Like there's so much knowledge that's around now and readily accessible that was not accessible.
Yeah, you
like,
probably had to have a conversation with like one person rather than.
Yeah, there were a couple of people like Dr. Owades and people like this that were just like gurus of just like super knowledgeable, you know, or even William Muller, who was like the brewmaster at Ortlieb's right here and Schmidt's, you know, and stuff like that at different times. So those people are still, they were fading out of the industry. They were getting really, really old and stuff like that. But yeah, but Boston beer earned my respect, you know, like honestly, like even as my little fledgling, like, oh, I'm getting into craft beer, I was like, well, I don't know about Sam Adams, because it was readily available, which people were like, well, that can't be good. Yeah. Like if that's the first craft beer I had, it can't be great, you know, like even, you know, whatever. So that's what, yeah. So then they hired me, and I spent like the next 5 years trying to make as legitimately good beer as I possibly could on a system that was a little bit flawed.
What were you making back down? Like what types of beers?
I did some cool shit. So I got hired. They had like a gold, like I swear to God, it was like every brew pub did some gold, porter, and amber, right? And then we're like, every once in a while we do a seasonal. Sometimes we do an IPA, you know, something like that. And 6 months into being there, I had like 8 beers on, you know. I was just like, I want to do everything, you know. I'm excited about this. I really did. I started you know, I was pretty influenced like everybody from like books from Michael Jackson, stuff like that, where you start like, you know, this Belgian stuff.
Were you making Belgian beers?
So that's probably what I'm most proud of ever, was that I made in the 90s, made a Rodenbach Grand Cru knockoff that was legitimately delicious, you know? And I did some sour beer back then. And I think it was 94, and I still have some. And it's still good, and that's fucking cool, you know. Like, you know,
you still have some?
I do, and it's the weirdest story ever. All right.
Wait, were you guys packaging there?
No.
Or you just
the fact that it's
still good?
So we were just right. So here's what happened. I was fascinated with that style. Homebrewers made that kind of stuff sometimes, but I didn't really. There was nobody really doing that stuff, you know, at all. Maybe Allagash might have done some of their whites by then. I don't know. Pure Celis was doing some kind of interesting stuff, right? The old Celis Grand Cru. But so I literally went down and talked to George at Homestead Homebrew, and I'm like, "What do you think?" Blah blah blah. You know, and he's like, "Well, I got these sour cultures. I got this, whatever. You know, how do you feel like you want to do this?" And so pretty much winged it. You know, looking at color. Thinking, you know, like, you know, it's like, oh, I'm not sure the head's going to hang out that long. Like, there was no documentation of what was actually in the Grand Cru that I was trying to knock off, right? Like Rodenbach. Rodenbach was not being
actually reverse engineering this.
Yeah, right. But they were not being very like forthcoming as far as I could tell with like what the recipes were. But you know, you have some lore and you try to do it. And I made this beer, and I took malt. Other people have done this too. I took grain and I just threw it in some sterile wort, and I did a couple different buckets of it, and I'd kind of, you know, pop the lid and be like, "How's this one? Yeah, how's this one?" And then I did a brew with that culture and a wheat yeast that I thought was fruity enough and estery enough, and I'm like, maybe this will, you know, like, so I did a mixed culture. Besides the fact that one of them's wild, you know, who knows what the hell's going on, but it smelled right. I was like, that smells exactly like Rodenbach. This smells great. Well, I made this beer, and I was like really happy with it. It came out pretty good. I used wood chips because they did like wood tons and like whatever. You know, I make 7 barrels. That was our brew length there, and Boston Beer would always ask me to send samples up. So I sent some up. I was pretty proud of it. And they came down on me. Like, they were like, that, like, they really were like, that is not sound brewing. You should have talked to us, you know, like, that's just what, you know, that's just an infected beer, blah, blah, blah. They were really, really mad at me. And I was like, well, I like it, and I like, you know, I don't know. But I mean, I almost got fired. I almost got my ass just fired. And I was like, all right, well, I like it. And my buddy Tom Peters was the manager down the street at Copa 2, right, which is what he had before Monks. And Copa 2 is funny because now, that's Jose Pistolas. I guess you guys know that, right? But it's now absolutely accepted that you could have a Mexican food joint with top level beer. It really made no fucking sense. Back when Tom was just bringing in Chimay and everything else, nobody was thinking that. Nobody's it doesn't.
Was Copa, was that a Mexican place also?
Copa 2 was Mexican, yeah. So Tex-Mex, whatever. I don't think I'd pass any judgment on what their food was like. But it was a margarita place, and there wasn't a bunch of customers coming in here and Tom, can we get some, Abbey doubles? No, he just did it because that's what he wanted,
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're like minds, kindred spirits there. And I brought that beer down to Tom because Tom was pretty much, the person that I knew that knew the most about Belgian beer that I, probably stole, right? And I was like, yeah, he's like, this is really good. It was called Brewhouse Tart. And I sold him a couple kegs. And he was like, this is delicious. I'm like, yeah, Boston, those guys are going to fire me. They're so mad. Wow. And they were mad. They didn't believe I had any control over it. They were just like, that's not, you shouldn't have done it that way, blah, blah, blah. Fair, in that sense, right? I mean, I was kind of punkish to do it. So then a year goes by, and there used to be this thing where Michael Jackson would come out and do these tutored tastings, or he would lead a tasting at the University Museum over by Penn, right? Legendary, fucking amazing, right? And he'd just Michael Jackson would get up there and just whatever, just stream of consciousness, just talk about all the stuff, and everybody would have their beers, and it's like people were really learning about new stuff, right? And just really getting their minds blown a little bit. Well, they had this new one. They had the annual thing was coming up, and Michael Jackson tapped Tom and said hey, here's what I'd really like to do for this next one. We've done this, we've done these styles. I want to do Belgian beers, and I'm starting to see more breweries start to do American equivalents or homage to them, or whatever you want to call it. And he goes, I think that's really cool. And, see Dogfish Head started doing some stuff and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, Tom, that sounds cool. He's like, yeah, well, I really want you to do that Brewhouse Tart again, that Rodenbach. And I'm like, give me a chill. I'm like, are you kidding me? Those guys were going to fire me, they're really mad about that, Tom. And he's like, it's pretty good. And I was like, but one of the things that my predecessor, Jim Pericles, had said to me when I was arguing that it made sense for me to make it, and he was arguing it didn't. He was like, could you make the same beer again? And I said, I think I could. And he's like, well, that's why it's not brew. And I was like, okay, all right, fair. And then, so when Tom's like, can you make the same beer again? I'm like, yeah, I can fucking make that beer again. I'm fucking gonna do it. And I was like my favorite beer ever made. So I make it again. And Michael Jackson, I was sweating bullets. Michael Jackson is in town, and he's like, we bring and I don't, Rodenbach Grand Cru is aged for, I don't know, a couple of years. It was a lot longer than I had a chance to do it, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh my God.
There's also the buck stops here. There's no place to go beyond this. Who's...
oh my God, right? Yeah. Kind of high stakes for me. And so I made it, and I was pretty happy with it, but it was a little young. It had but it was good. And Michael had it, and thank God, he definitely, I think, gave a little extra credit for taking a risk. You know what I mean? Mm. So it's he was like, this is delicious, and I'm like, oh my God, thank you, right? He uses it in the tutor tasting. It ends up in one of his little books. He used to have the pocket guide to beer. It was a narrow book. Uh-huh. And he had a star rating on it, right? It was 1 to 4 stars. I mean, I don't think he put any 1-star beers in there, because why would you? But 4 stars is you're the paradigm of that. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. So there's no way I can get 4 stars because it's a knockoff of Rodenbach Grand Cru back when it was good, which I don't, well, what piss anybody off. I don't think Rodenbach Grand Cru is the same beer it used to be. But I was like, it got a little sweeter, it got a little less edgy. But I was like, he gave me like 3 stars. And I think that's almost as high as any Boston beer was ever rated. And it was in, you know, and I was just like, hey, you know that one? I did it again. And I was like, kind of like almost, you know, I was a little, I mean, I definitely felt that way. I don't know if I said that, but it was so anyhow, so fast forward, this is crazy. So I'm like, Jim Cook and David Mink decide not to renew the brew house. And one of you guys had asked whether there were other ones.
Yeah.
When they first did it, I think Boston Beer was very much thinking they might do brew pubs in like major cities, like just, you know, Philly, Chicago, whatever. And they were like, this would give us a physical presence and we were going to, you know, this would be really great. Once they did it, they realized it's really not a great idea because you get some, you know, asshole brewer down there doing whatever he wants. And it's not their same beer, right? And everybody comes in like, oh, Sam, give me a Boston Lager. I'm like, we don't do that one. And they're like, what? Give me, you know, whatever. And you're like, no. And they're like, I've never even heard of these beers. Like, do they know you're doing this? You know, but you couldn't do the beers that they had on that scale, at least not the way we were doing it. And it just confuses everybody, right? So they never did another one. So when the 10 years of the handshake agreement came up, both parties were like, nah, like this was great, but I don't want to, this is not strong enough to do it more. And so they let me go, we let everybody go, right? And Notting Head took over the space. Beautifully, thankfully, they put in a mash tun and a mash ladder ton, and they, like, you know, upgraded the system as new owners will do. A little jealous, but you know, it was cool. So, but as we're winding down the Sam Adams Brew Pub, I had a bunch of beer, and some of it was like I had stuff in like whiskey barrels and stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm not dumping this stuff. Like, this is pissing me off, you know. But I can't just suddenly sell more either, right? So I kind of called up a bunch of my friends, and one of them, Kurt Wonder, started 700 Club, which is just down the block here, right? It's like two blocks away, and I was like, Kurt, can you take some of this beer off me? And he's like, yeah, I'll take anything, you know. And he's like, I got a pickup truck, I'm coming, you know. I'm like, great. So I gave him a bunch of IPAs, a bunch of this stuff, and I gave him some of the tart, and I gave him some Triple Buck, which is like a crazy 18% beer, right? And I'm like, and he opened up his bar, and they sold off all the beer, and except they were like, look, these IPAs were great and stuff. I don't think I really want to put that sour thing. I'm like, the tart ale. I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you know, I'll hold on to that for you. And I'm like, oh, all right, whatever. And so he had it, it was in the basement of 700 for like 16 years. I don't know. It was crazy, a crazy amount of time, you know, like a really ridiculous amount of time in these kegs. And all the rest of the beer was gone, like everything that, of course, you know, it was like, and every once in a while I'd be like, hey, right, do you have that beer? And he's like, shut up. If you're going to take it, you know, and in the meantime, I've opened up Standard Tap. So I've, you know, done this thing with my partner, Paul. And we were going to make it a brew pub at first. And then as we worked on the building, we thought we didn't want to shoehorn a brewery into a space. There's not enough room. I was kind of felt a little burnt from being at the other place where I couldn't fit a mash tun in. Eventually they did. But I was like, I kind of need more space. Anyhow, finally one day I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna go down there and see if they still have it. Like, I don't know if they do or not. And I go down to 700, middle of the day. Weirdly, there's a bartender I've never met before, which is, you know, it's like my local, right? It's weird. And I'm like, and I say to him, hey, Kurt stashed some beer in the basement. I'm supposed to pick it up, you know? like it's like cool. And he's like, oh yeah, go ahead, whatever. It looks legit. So I go down there with an uncle of mine, and we find it. And it's like behind a mop, like sink. It's like gross. The keg looks terrible. The 2-prong, the old one, you know, the Hop Stevens.
Yeah.
And but when I put it in the keg, I mean, both being a sour beer, and also I put like a cheesecloth of wood chips in there too, because I was like, I don't know what I'm kind of making some of this shit up as I go along, but it's like, you know, a little bit of that too, a little oak. And I find it down there. I'm like, I got it. You know, I'm gonna take it off, and I was like, I let it settle. I gave it like at least a day. I let it like just settle out because I was like moved around, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna tap it. I have no idea what I'm getting here. Like, I just have no idea. And so I got 2 clean sixtels, you know, like just like perfect sixtels. Should just ignore it. That's what it was. Now I remember. Here's the one thing you're supposed to do. So I get 2 clean sixtels from a friend of mine, and I go down and I tap the old Pop Stevens. And, you know, like a little mud comes out, like a little yeast stuff, settled stuff. And then, and I like run it into like a little glass pitcher and it like started pouring clear. I'm like, okay, transferred it into the sixtels, you know, counter pressured it, doing everything because I feel like, okay, gotta be. Meanwhile, like as it's filling, I'm like, try it. I'm like, oh, it's fucking good. It's really good. It's like, I'm like, I can't believe it's really good. You know, I was like, holy shit. So I filled the sixtels up, and then we had a bunch of like swing top, you know, growler kind of things, and we fill up the remainder, like 5 or 6 of them, and then that's it. You know, like I should have gotten 15 gallons, but I had some waste. It was some foam, whatever. You know? And I got really excited about it because it was really good, and it was like, I mean, it was like it's old. I think it's how many years is that now? 94. So what is that? 30? Almost 30.
A little more.
Right?
Yeah. 31.
Like, Jesus.
Beers are supposed to last that long. That's crazy.
It must not have been 94. It must have been, maybe that was the first batch was 94. And then the second, when I remade it, right? Because I think this is weird. I think it's the same age as my daughter. So she's turning 29. So, all right. I think it's there. So I fill up a couple growlers, whatever, you know, and I'm like, I share it with my partner, Paul, obviously, you know, whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to bring this down to Mugs. I got to do this, right? Like, so I bring it down, and I'm like, and I see Tom, and he's like, well, what's going on, you know? And I'm like, I got this beer you want to try. He's like, I love trying beer. And I'm like, okay, you know? And I pull out a swing top, and he's like, what's that, you know? And I was like, it's the Brewhouse Tart. He's like, not yours, you know? Like, it was like, even at that point, it was like over 20 years old. And he's like, yours? And I was like, yeah. And there was like a little crew of us, like there's like 5 people sitting around the table, and we pour it, and Tom's like and he's like, oh, it is good. And I'm like, I know it's good, I know. And he's like, I wouldn't have given it to you, it was sucked. And he's like, I don't know, you know. He goes, I was trying to hold my face really still in case it sucked. And I'm like, okay, it was good. So anyhow, yeah, long story there. But yeah, so I actually, this is crazy. I have 1 sixtel left of it, which is still at the tap, and we're probably, you know,
wait for the 50th anniversary.
I know.
Do you have an occasion in your head?
I've been thinking about it. I think like my daughter's in college. I'm I think legally obligated to say she's in med school and she's going to be a doctor.
Congrats.
Yeah, right. And I think when she graduates, I think that's when we're going to like bust it out.
That's cool.
Have that. Yeah.
That's Tom brought in some beers to us that were like 25 years old, and like, this is by far the oldest beer I've ever had. It's crazy. Like, beers now last like most times, like when you get a can, it's like, drink this within 6 months.
Yeah. Well, I had, you know, when I bought, so we were talking about Standard Tap. We opened up 99 very end, right?
So what was the transition like that? You left, and then you just found Standard Tap.
I had already bought the building.
Okay.
So my partner Paul and I bought the building. This neighborhood was just dirt cheap. Like, it was like it was nobody was looking at this building. Nobody was trying to buy it. It was a failed bar. It used to be called the Bull's Head, and the banks had already foreclosed on it.
What was around here? Just 700 Club?
We bought it before 700. 700, we looked at that building too. Liberties, which now is Bourbon and Branch, was there. And the only reason they were there is because the guy that sells architectural antiques just felt like putting a bunch of his antique bar into a room.
I'd say it looks very similar.
Yeah. So that's the only reason that was there, and like it didn't make much sense. But so yeah, we paid. I think the building was listed at 90,000. I think it was 90. Whatever. We paid 90,000. Like it was actually, we were kind of like, hey, we'll give you a little more, and we go to the bank if you guys hold the mortgage, and they're like, nah, you find it. How about find your own mortgage? Because they were just like, we're out of here. This, they just thought it was just wasted money. We bought it, and we had to do 3 years of work on the building before it was suitable to be standard tap.
Was it the setup kind of the same, or did you guys change everything around?
It had unfortunately been renovated in the 80s really poorly. Like, so it just had a lot of like just shitty renovation, just.
But the setup, how the bars are situated.
So it's been a bar for 218 years, 218 years. But it was a little different, right? But so the bar itself, like somebody built, like it had like built out 2x4s, like used routers. Like this is terrible. Like this is just terrible work. And so we felt like we were kind of like just rolling back the clock a little bit, making it what we imagined it originally was. So it still had the tin ceiling in it and stuff like that. It had oak floors that were really old. The roof itself, like the rafters in the roof are round, like tree branches with just a flat top. Like, I mean, the building is old, It's cool. It's cool that it has that history too. So we, it took us like 2.5 years. We bought it halfway through 96, and then it took us to 99 before we could open up. Yeah. And meanwhile, 700 opened up, which were friends of mine, as I said. So I was happy with like kind of people I knew back from the Khyber Pass days.
Yeah.
And I was pretty excited that those guys were doing their thing.
Also close in the neighborhood a bit too.
Yeah. Well, like if people will come there, they'll probably come here. Totally. We're not that much further. Oh, but I was going to say was that when we bought Johnny Brenda's, we went up to Fishtown, and also nobody wanted to be in Fishtown at all. Like people were just really freaked out by Fishtown. And we bought that building because people kept, once Northern Liberties took off, people kept saying to us, I want to do a bar in Northern Liberties. And we're like, well, it's really expensive now. Why don't you do one in Fishtown? Like, like 3 of my bartenders have bought houses there. It's going to change, it's going to happen. Eventually we're like, why don't we do it?
It's crazy that, I mean, you said you bought the building before 700 Club. So you like open up like the first establishment that turned around Northern Liberties, and then you open up Johnny Brenda's in Fishtown, which was like the start of Fishtown. And Fishtown has now turned into this like internationally known neighborhood.
It's crazy. I mean, it doesn't make us geniuses. It just sort of was like,
you were in exactly
like a pile,
the right
there's
spot.
like a pile of sticks, and we're just like a little spark, and you're just like, and we happen to be first. Like if somebody else would have done it sooner or later, obviously, because it's just like that's where it's heading. Like you could just feel the pressure of just like people getting excited about a place and doing something, and the changeover. But yeah, I mean, I'm proud of it also as well. And it also works out, real estate wise, obviously.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. So Johnny Brenda's is a little bit different than Standard Tap because you guys have the performance or like the concert venue upstairs. Was that always a part of the plan, or what was the building at Johnny Brenda's like?
It kind of developed. It never had that upstairs. The upstairs was basically a flop house. Like it was like you could rent like a room by the week, and it probably hadn't been occupied since the 80s. It was pretty spooky up there, honestly. It was pretty weird. And as we kind of started renovating the building, we realized that we could have a live music venue once we started doing it. So we just kind of like
it's a unique venue. It's
first.
like it's not like it's so intimate, but it's like it seems much larger than what it looks like from the outside.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a mind fuck when you kind of like. You go in and you like people. I love actually being upstairs when a band comes in the first time and they like they come up the stairs and they're like, "Whoa, like this is actually cool." You're like, because I think when they pull up outside sometimes, in a tour bus, whatever, van, whatever. Usually a van. We're not that fancy usually, but they'll be like, "Why did they book us in this bar?" Like, you know what I mean? And a lot of times we're like one of the smaller venues on a tour. Like just because we punch a little above our weight, kind of.
Yeah.
And then they get upstairs and like, oh, they see the balcony and they see how it looks and changes their mind a lot. So that's cool. Oh, what I was trying to get to was this story. Long way around. We were talking about really old beers.
Yeah.
And we had a couple floods at Johnny Brenda's where the water main broke outside, flooded us out. It was really catastrophic, like just everything in the basement ruined. And when we bought it, there were 2 cases of Schmidt's returnables, ponies, in the basement, which had to be, because they're returnables. It's like these couldn't be newer than 1985. I think that's when they closed, right? And the second time it flooded, I just remember somebody like bringing up this soggy box, and we were like going through everything that was wrecked. It was terrible. All your tools, everything's just wrecked. And somebody's like, well, I guess these are going in the trash. And I'm like, what? No. And they're like, why are you saving those? And I'm like, what? They're fine. And I just like take one and I like pop the cap and like dead eye them and just go like, and just chug a pony fucking Schmidt's from 1984, right? And they're like looking at me like, and I'm like, oh. It was so nasty. I was trying so hard to hold it down. I'm just like,
I'm gonna show you.
Yeah, I'll show you. Oh my God, it was horrific. Even thinking about it now. What kind of floaters were in there? I have no idea, but it was fun. Yeah.
When did you open up Johnny Brenda's compared to Standard Tap? What year?
So it seems so funny because it felt like we were doing the tap for a while, and then we bought Johnny Brenda's in 2003. So it was like 3.5 years later, which back then felt like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Now when I think about it, I'm like, what the hell? That was really fast. Yeah. And then it took like international. We only opened up like a little over 5 years ago.
It was 2019, right?
Yeah.
But so Johnny Brenda's opened. When did Frankfurt Hall open up after that? Like, how long were you guys like the only guys in the neighborhood?
Like the only new spot.
Yeah.
The only spot that hadn't changed they're changed within 50 years. Frankfurt Hall probably took about 3 years, maybe, something like that. It did happen pretty quick. Like, it was surprising how fast stuff started then shifting around and people changing them. And Kraftwerk opened up, and yeah, there's a whole wave of stuff. Which is great. I mean, that's kind of what you want, right? Yeah, I didn't expect it to go up, the development to race up Frankfurt. I really thought Girard was going to be the main road more. And when Kraftwerk opened, we were kind of like, oh yeah, now we're just going to fill in between it. It's not quite have the same. It doesn't have quite the same momentum.
It's been a lot slower.
Does. Yeah.
It's starting to move a little bit, but it's not. I mean, Frankfurt Hall, like even up into Port Richmond, is still like blowing up.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, yeah, you got just 4 new restaurants within 100 feet of International. Like, I mean, that's crazy. How many. There's some of the best restaurants or most, whatever, making the biggest splash in the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jaffa's like doing great. You have Ama just opened up. You have
Percy. Yeah,
Percy, huge project right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kalia or Kalea, however they say it. I always feel like I get corrected each time. But yeah. I mean, Fishtown's interesting. I think it is a good scene there. I don't know. Maybe just sometimes I think something being so underdeveloped for so long really makes it the momentum stronger almost. I mean, when something starts happening, and because there are spaces for people to get and do something new, and now it's all pretty big money. It would be hard to have an independent jump in there. Yeah. But I guess, we have Forest and Maine. I'm sure you guys know that. It's coming in now to
I mean, it's like the Fishtown is crazy. Like, yes, it's very hard to because everything's so expensive now. But even still, these places are going in and they're still getting all this, business.
Yeah.
It's almost like Fishtown has now had this life of its own where it's not just the neighborhood itself is doing great.
Yeah.
But people are coming in from all over the place just to visit Fishtown itself, not just Center City.
I agree. Yeah. It has that. It does have a lot. It has a lot of buzz about it, which I'm happy for. That's good. Yeah.
So what? I guess it was always beer centric. Everything Standard Tap.
Yeah.
did you guys have any experience on the kitchen side of it? I mean, you guys have like just kind of like a gastropub. Like,
Yeah,
what
right.
was that?
Yeah, and that word was like just about non-existent. Maybe it existed in England. We had never heard it before. My partner Paul he was always a big foodie. Like he was always like just at home chef kind of thing. And he'd done like a little help people out. We've both been in restaurants, but he was never a professional chef. But it was funny. Like I'd go over to his house, and it was his girlfriend then, his wife now, Dolly. Like I'd go over to his house, and like on a Sunday, and just do like the New York Times with his girlfriend Dolly, and we'd just be sitting there and whatever, smoking, whatever we did back then, and doing the crossword. And Paul would be cooking all day, and I'd be like, Paul, what are you making over there? And he's like, oh, veal ossobuco. And I'm like, what? But what'd you get out of the freezer? And he's like, oh, frozen veal stock. And I'm like, what? And he's like, how do you make a demi-glace? And I'm like, and I'm going back to the crossword. And he'd just be like over there, like smoking a joint, just fucking cooking, and it was the best, But he was like, he always like just way ahead of anybody I know, like time-wise, of just being legit thinking about farm to table, thinking about this, another phrase that didn't exist. And when we did standard, it just didn't even really occur to us, and especially to him, to do like, to cheapen food or do it as like, just like mozzarella sticks and tavern food or whatever, pub grub, as people say, or whatever. He was just like, why wouldn't I want good food, And so it was like a different thing. And just, we wouldn't, he would never buy mayonnaise. He would never, it was like, you just make mayonnaise. Why would I buy it? And it is sort of a naive approach to some of it, really let it work. I remember.
Different, yeah.
Yeah. Like he had like the gastronomique, like the, like that, whatever, heavy French cookbook of just like, and he would just be like, oh, I want to make a duck confit. He did it 100% like that. And we had friends that were in restaurants, like Lebec Finn and stuff like that. Like they'd be like, oh, we don't even do that. Like they're just, what I mean? Not to knock Lebec or something, but they'd just be like, wow, whoa, dude, it's kind of medieval, like, what are you doing there? He's like, I don't know. That's what I read. So I was really, it worked out. And I was really proud of the food that we were able to do it. So Paul basically was on sort of the food side, and I was like kind of like the bar side of it. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of a weird choice too, because we were going to do a brew pub, and then it used to be like a great beer bar, like Khyber Pass is a great beer bar. It still is. But back in the day, you're kind of like a great beer bar back in the day, you might, like, oh, Grolsch, what's that? It was like, it was a different level, right? Like Newcastle Brown Ale, like fucking when cook hot dogs and that stuff now, like I'm just like, I don't know what, it was a different idea, right? I'm just saying, but I'm gonna piss somebody off. But sorry, you're gonna crack me up. But so like you had a good beer bar, almost everything was the import scene, right? And so then when like stouts showed up and some other like yards started and Victory, they all started. Well, the Victory yards and a bunch of those started around the same time, right? The class of '96 or something they call them one time. But people would be like, you had 12 tabs, you make 2 of them locals.
Just try not to tap.
And that would be it. Oh yeah, the 2 would be locals, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And that's what every beer bar did. They just every single one. It's like beer bars I love, great ones, but they were always just like. Yeah, there's our locals. Here's our 2 locals, right? And I don't know why. It's just people just copy each other, but that's how it was. And so being on the brewing side of stuff, like being at Sam Adams for a while, I was like, that's fucking bullshit. Like I'm just like, oh, sorry, yards. This week it's flying fish or something like that. I was like, this is stupid. So I was like, I don't really want to do. And I was thinking about doing the brew pub, and then I was like, you know what? We actually need is somebody to be like local and be proud of it and lead with it, right? And it sounds so trite right now. I mean, it's just like, you know what I mean? It's like now Walmart says we're local or whatever, you know, like, I mean, we're all local, right? But when we said it at Standard Tap, like, this is what we're going to do. We're not brewing beer. And I fully expected to just then start a brewery down the street and start selling myself beer. Like, it was 100% my plan. But I also was like, I want to put on these beers. Like, these are my friends that, like, they're all just like stabbing each other in the back. Not really, but you know what I mean? To like try to be on this tap.
Yeah, because at most bars, it's only the 2 local taps.
Every bar.
Yeah.
Every bar. You know, it's just like, this is weird that it's just turned into that. But yeah, it's like, well, I got to have, you know, Youngs, and I got to have, you know, Fullers. I got to have, like, you know, Guinness. I got to have all these Euro brands that have these clout. And then.
But you coming from Sam Adams, like, you saw, like, no, you can do this a different way.
Right. So, yeah. So that's what I basically got to. And I was just like, okay, we're just doing all locals. And people would be like, well, I mean, you're still going to have a light beer, right? I'm like, nope. You know? And they were like, well, that's crazy, dude. And I'm like, well, that's what we're going to do. Thankfully, it worked. And I mean, it kind of like, it resonated with people. And as you say, like, after a while, you don't even want to hear anybody say it anymore. You know, it's like, even like, there aren't that many places that really walk the walk. You know, like, everybody's like, oh yeah, we buy farm to table and stuff. And you're like, you see the Cisco truck outside. You're like, you know, this is like, no, you don't. But that was our thing, support local first and do that. And I thought it was, you know, it was worthy. The beers were worthy of, like, you know, putting a showcase on it and just being proud about it.
Did you talk to Tom Peters about that? About how he was, like, kind of partnering the food and the beer together?
Nah, I mean, kind of like we've been friends for a long time.
So it wasn't a specific conversation, but maybe like.
No, I mean, it didn't even, the idea of not making great food just was so
wasn't even
outside
an
of our
option.
heads. We didn't really think, like, hey, what if we made great food? We're like, why the hell would you not make food you believed in? You know, and my partner Paul and I both worked in fine dining, worked in a bunch of restaurants, some of them bullshit, some of them not. But, you know, like, we're actual true believers in it, you know, like, of actually making, like, you know, wholesome, delicious, you know, not overworked food. Like, that's what we wanted to do. And Tom, and there was some inspiration there, or even like the other funny inspiration, I think, I don't know, whatever, was when we went one time, I mentioned McGlinchey's, and the one time we go into McGlinchey's, you know, get the, you know, I think they had Yingling Porter for like 85 cents for like a dimple mug, you know, whatever, you know. It's like, you know, working in restaurants, you're like, you appreciate this deal. And we go in and we're like, hey, where's Fergie at? You know, because he used to bartend there like forever. And they're like, what? He opened his own bar. Like, it's like Fergie's. And we're like, what? We're kind of like, what? What do you do? You know, as before he did Monks with Tom. Mm-hmm. But it was like, yeah, we were both like, oh, I think I'm going to go over there and talk to him, you know, like, no, start pulling, you know, poking around his brain a little bit. Yeah, it's good. So you were mentioning Johnny Brenda's, like, having live music, stuff like that. We were kind of like, we wanted to be close to where we live and our own neighborhood, and we believed in Fishtown, but we didn't want to step on our own toes and just, or, you know, like, kind of like eat your own lunch or whatever. And there's some phrase for that, right? So we didn't want to be exactly the same as the Tap, which uses food very strongly as a draw to help also drive other business, right?
Yeah.
And so we thought live music's like the other thing that we love, the other thing that gets etched in your brain and you remember it and you want it again. You know, it's like I think of shows I saw at the Khyber in the 90s and I still remember them. You know, it's like I just believe it. Yeah. So it's been good to be part of that tradition too.
So, not to take a left-hand turn, but we have the Hammer of Glory here.
Speaking of tradition.
Yeah, speaking of tradition. So, can you, can you give the little story?
Was it in the shot? Yeah.
The Hammer of Glory was your idea?
Yes, so it was Scoats and I.
Okay.
So we did the first beer week ever, right? And we weren't, neither Scoats nor I, Scoats had Grey Lodge Pub, and he was like, neither of us were part of the original organizing, just handful of people, right? It was like, and those guys, they did the first one, and we were part of it. And I'm not not usually always like a big joiner of, beer crawls and stuff like that. And I wasn't sure what it was going to be like. But because I respected the people that were involved in it, I was like, all right, yeah, we'll try it. We'll do this thing. And then afterwards, Scoats and I were DMing or something. I don't know, whatever. AOL Instant Messenger. I don't know whatever he had back then, right? And we're like, yeah, that was good. I'm like, I feel like we're falling into the trap of like wine. People really always, the beer world always was a little jealous of wine world because wine world got a lot of respect and was in fancy restaurants and all this kind of stuff. And they were always like trying to emulate it, so beer dinners, I mean, really are pretty much a knockoff of the idea of doing a wine dinner, right?
Yeah.
It's fine. I've been to good beer dinners. I love it. I have like Michael Jackson event with the tutored tasting.
Yeah.
There's some amount of pretension to it. Mm-hmm. We all think it's worth it. We all think it's great, whatever. But so the first beer week, I had a lot of beer dinners, right? So everything was like pairing and stuff like that. And, it's like kind of like, oh, you're having a little fun. And then somebody comes out and like, okay, everybody be quiet. Okay, I'm going to talk about, this beer and why I thought the nuttiness of it matched this thing, whatever it is. And I was like with Scoats, I was like, look, it's starting to sound like these wine things. And I was like, no one's ever said, hey, can I buy you a wine sometime? That's not fucking a thing, right? And I was like, I think it's a mistake. Like we're going too hard, and we're gonna kill the fun. Like I'm just like that makes me nervous, right? The funness, the casualness, the easiness of beer. I'm like, we got to do something. And I'm like, we should do something really stupid because that's what we need to do. And I think the Olympics were on in like the background or something. And I was watching the torch. And
oh my God, that's a movie moment. You're just like,
yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, like light bulb. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, we got to get one of those. Like, it was like, what, an Olympic torch, And I'm like, well, no, but I mean, whatever. What's the beer equivalent of it? I don't know which one of us came up with the hammer. I don't know. We were going back and forth, and we're just like, yeah, I mean, that's it. And we first thought we were gonna like relay it. Like we were like, oh, like Garrett Oliver can like leave New York in a speedboat or something. I don't know. We're trying to figure this shit out. Like, oh, it's gonna be great. And it kind of changed. But then luckily, I mean, I knew my friend Warren Holzman has like a metal studio. It's called the Iron Studio. It's up in it used to be across the street from the tap. He made a bunch of table bases for us. He's a super gifted dude, right? And I'm like, I know the dude. Like once we figured out we needed to make a giant hammer, I was like, oh, I got a guy, And so like Warren, we just sketched this on a bar napkin, and he was like, he was like, gotcha, let's go. And I think it's great. So you use it to tap the first keg at the opening tap. That's what we first started doing. Several mayors, our governor, Rendell did it the one time. I can't remember who else. It's been so many different people. But yeah, so it became some mascot. I don't know. It's like,
you need for tradition stuff, you need a relic. And this is a relic that is like being passed down. Like, yes, it's tradition. Like you're doing these events every year, but you need a physical thing to pass down as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Like the ram's head or something, whatever it is. I don't know. And it was pretty. I'm pleased with how well it was accepted immediately. And then of course it got stolen several times now.
So is this the original one, or is this a recreation?
No, it's the original one.
Stolen by like other bars would hold on to it for some time, or like
sometimes it just was lost. Like one time, I don't know if you guys know Casey Hughes. He was Flying Fish's head brewer, and then he went down.
Heard the name.
Coppertail down in Florida, Tampa. But one time, like he just was like, dude, the hammer. I don't know why it was under my couch. I was looking for the remote, He's like, have you guys been looking for it? And I'm like, kinda, yeah. We thought it would come up. Somebody stole it one time, I think at a Frankfurt Hall event, and I think he immediately just regretted it and just made an anonymous call and turned it in basically, You're like, all right, whatever. Now we track it, but finally air tags work well enough that you can do that kind of shit.
Is there an air tag on the top of it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Classified information, but yes. And it's just done. Yeah, it is funny. People definitely react to it. Like you see, the most photos of Philly Beer Week have that hammer.
I mean, everyone wants to take a picture of it. Like you need somebody to take a picture with it. So I guess you have also famously the golf cart. They drive around everywhere. So I see you all around Philly Beer Week, like taking it. Like that's your form of transportation. Taking it to a open tap.
Actually, I was talking about it earlier, because, Space Cadet and stuff, but we dressed it up as a lunar lander for the one, and we drove it onto the stage of the Fillmore, which is just kind of a little bit crazy when I think about it sometimes. Yeah, like wearing like a spacesuit and driving a lunar lander onto the thing. And then giving the mayor this thing, you're just like, this is...
What's happening
Did
right
this
now?
happen? Did that really happen? Yeah. That's pretty funny. But
like sitting in physics floor at Drexel, like, when you use this.
Yeah, right. And so then my buddy Sven, Greg, oh my God, he used to work for Victory, right? And we all called him, his real name's Greg, but we called him Sven because he's like 6'4" and blonde hair, right?
Yeah.
Of course we're gonna call him Sven. He's more associated with Forest and Maine now.
Yeah.
But he and I were the day after opening tap, we're just cruising around, and we left the golf cart still dressed as a lunar lander, and it looked pretty good. And we're wearing NASA astronaut things, and we went down to, I think it was the Industry. There was a bar down South Philly, like deep South Philly, right?
Yeah.
It's the guys from Good Dog did this bar, and eventually they closed it. But we were down there, and I guess for Beer Week they were, hot dog grilling on the sidewalk, doing beer stuff. Greg and I leave in the golf cart, like 2 beers stuck in the thing. We both have like hot dogs, and we're dressed as astronauts, and we're like going up the street, and Greg's like, I was like, oh man, you know what? I don't think I'm, don't open my beer. I was like, I don't think we're allowed to do this, And he takes his hot dog. He's like, if this is against the law, I don't want to live in America anymore. like waving his hot dog at me, like dressed as an astronaut. I was like, all right, that's Beer Week. That's perfect. Yep, nailed it.
At what point so I don't know if all the listeners know, but the hog during Beer Week can't travel by just being walked from bar to bar.
Oh, yeah. So
when did that become a thing?
Almost at the first thing when we made it, we were like, look, we're going to do this relay, and it's got to go from bar to bar, bar to relay, bar to brewery, mix them up. But we're like, once we abandoned the idea of Garrett Oliver in a speedboat, we were like, okay, it's got to be a little less than that maybe, but not walking, right? And so we were like, it's got to be something weird. Like, you just got to come up with the weirdest way to convey it you possibly can. So I saw Fergie one year swim. They took a.
Oh, she's swimming. They doubt we're in the school or not.
He went to Time from Fergie's, but they just had a pickup truck they threw a tarp in, and it filled up with water. Right. But he had the full, the snorkel and little flippers, floaties. I think he had floaties on. And as soon as they pull out, the water's like, whatever. I went out the second floor window of the tap, like with a zip line.
Oh my gosh!
I made that was pretty funny. I had fireworks stuck in my shoes, like full jackass. And
did not call the insurance company probably before you did that.
No. It also was funny because I was like, I hadn't thought about the fact that, okay, what am I gonna do with the hammer? And it wasn't like a real zip line, was like with a harness. I just was holding on to like a T-bar. I'm like, I could hold on a T-bar from Standard Tap to the telephone pole outside of the Foodery, right?
Yeah.
For album. But then I'm like, oh shit, the hammer. So I just like stuck it through my belt, and I'm like, it's just like, all right, light my sneakers on fire. Here we go. We did like a man-sized pogo stick the one time. I think like one of those like X Games pogo sticks.
Yeah.
That also, I didn't think about the mass of the hammer, not wanting to jump up and, you're like, I almost died. yeah, what else have we done? We've done the Pope Mobile. We've done just so many different things. Yeah. Oh, we did the Imperial transport from what do you call that? Star Wars.
Yeah.
Darth Vader gets in that 3-wing thing with the 2 wings that fold up.
Yeah.
And I used to have this 3-wheeled electric truck before I had the golf cart, and it looked perfect. Like, it was so good. But yeah, it's always fun. I mean, as I said, that we were like definitely sticking to the idea that Scoats and I both had of just like, it's got to be dumber. We got to dumb this up a little bit, like, because it's just, that's the last thing I want is like somebody like, like that idea of just, the beer nerd,
Yep.
killing the joy of everything. It's like I tuck beer all day. I fucking love beer, and I love like so many different beers. Right?
Sure.
All the styles, right? I'm a little tired of some of them, but yeah, but you just try to keep some fun in it and just keep some joy, Yeah.
Yeah, keep it light, I guess. It's I don't know, it's different, but like you said, this has survived and is now a defining characteristic of Philly Beer Week.
We saw it knocked off right away. Baltimore immediately like, oh, we're gonna do a beer week, and they made a hammer, like, and like, what? Like, yeah, we saw yours. I'm like, yeah, all right, well, at least it.
And now it's just gonna become the standard every beer week. Oh, you need a hammer.
Yeah, right. Where's your hammer?
Just like the 2 locals on tap.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Right. To propagate.
Cool. So I guess you've done so much in beer and brewing around Philadelphia. Like, is there anything in the future, like, or are you just kind of like, I mean, you have 3 amazing bars right now. You're just kind of happy with where you're at. And
real estate people ask me this all the time, by the way, because they're like, "Oh, what neighborhood are you going to?"
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, right."
Yeah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, what are you thinking? We're not stopping. I'm not retiring. I'm sure Paul. It's just Paul and I. We don't have any other partners or anything, which is, like now I start to realize how special that is. It's great, and that it's somebody I love to work with and do our thing together. It's still decent. I don't know. Manufacturing side of it, maybe. I don't know. Could be distilling, could be brewing or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, KZ Parker now has the Jose Pistolas tequila. Or Jose, what is it? Something like that. I think he has a tequila brand.
So it's like a special bottling.
I think so.
Huh. I didn't even catch that he does.
I saw it at where is it, Kunda Beverage the other day.
I mean, I've done tons of collaboration beers over the years. Like Brian O'Reilly, who used to be at Sly Fox and now is at Mainstay.
Yeah.
And we make a Pilsner together, which I'm very proud of. I really like it a lot. But then I've made Amaro, I've made other stuff too, just like if somebody lets me into their brewery distillery, I'll be like, oh yeah, let's go. There's a lot of fun in a lot of those flavors, like International is more of a cocktail bar. It's definitely cocktail forward, right? I was not into cocktails like in the 90s. I wasn't like, but that's because cocktails sucked, It's like, like they were just, it basically were like mixing. It's like being a cook and buying everything at 7-Eleven. Like they were just like, oh, let's mix chocolate liqueur with this, and like, oh, it's a chocolate martini. And you're like, until the culinary side of it caught up and people are like, oh, let's do this. And then you're like, oh, that's actually interesting. I'm actually not usually a fan of sort of everything but the kitchen sink kind of beers. Like, in cleverness can go too far, but then there's always an exception that proves the rule. Like, I mean, I used to I used to think that about Dogfish Head a lot. I'd be like, why? Like, you guys are so much like home brewers. You're like, why? Like raisins and this, like, really, you really need both. And
getting the yeast off of like some old pot or something,
right? And then
there's so much craziness.
They over delivered usually. Like, you actually had it, and you're like, okay, fuck it, okay, it's good, it's good. You're right,
Yeah, the Sequench seems like the most basic beer. Like, if another brewery would make it, they'd be like, just make a Goza, and it'd be like some mass produced thing. They make 3 separate beers and blend them together to make that very basic tasting beer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's working for them. I mean, obviously it's worked for them, but yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I still do collaborations. Like so I like doing that. I don't know if I'm going to do my own brewery or something like that. I don't know. I wouldn't rule it out 100%, but at the same time, I'm like, let's figure some stuff out.
The TIC concepts are moving pretty quick, but all in Jersey.
Oh yeah, right.
I don't know
right.
how long it's going to take for PA, but I always think that's going to be a cool thing at some point.
I think there's no regulation in PA. I think because we're in this weird middle phase where it's like it's not legal, but it's not illegal. I think PA, like, you can't just like overtly go out and make it and sell it and market it. But I think you kind of just can and just not say anything. Yeah.
It is weird. It's I think the PLCB here they're so scared of getting legislated out of existence that they're just like, we're not stopping you. Like, it used to be that they were like draconian, and now they're like, oh no, it's cool, guys, go ahead. You know, like, you're like, what?
Yeah.
You know, like all of a sudden everything's cool. Like, I don't know, that's weird. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many things you could do. Like, imagine it, you know. But yeah.
Cool. I guess where can we find you guys? Do you have anything else you want to promote for you?
Let me think about that. I mean, I don't know. I'm doing a lot of community stuff all the time. Like, we do Second Street Festival, which is right in the neighborhood.
Did you set up Second Street Festival? I know it's good.
Yeah. That was me and Aron from North Bowl.
Oh, no way.
And then eventually a couple other people. Yeah.
Second Street Fest is the best, I think, street festival in the city.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. It was sort of like an idea of a mixture of wanting something to be not car centric, which sounds kind of so basic, but I just was like, Second Street was like a racetrack so often, like, and it's way better now than it used to be. But when we first opened up Standard Tap, we didn't have a light. There were cars would bottom out in the street, like going past Standard Tap. There was like a little rise, and they'd leaving sparks. Like, cars would flip. Like, I mean, the neighborhood was like pretty fucking ratchet. You know, you're just like, what is going on out there? And I was just like, I'm so sick of cars being the dominant piece of city culture, and just, you know, or how much gets devoted to it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, what if we just don't have cars and we can let people on the street? And it's more than that, for sure. I mean, it's not just the absence of cars, but as soon as you get rid of it, it's just like all your possibilities just get so big.
Yep.
And I love live music and stuff like that. And a friend of mine, like the original one, a friend of mine had Alexis had this, she was planning a festival down at FDR Park, and then had the rug pulled out from under her, and she already had the bands booked. And I'm like, well, I got the date. I think I know where to put them. Like, we'll go for street closure. And that's the first Second Street Festival, was basically that. It's just like, get real stages, get real sound systems.
I mean, the fact that it has the 3 bands, and also the North Bowl part of Second Street Fest is amazing.
Yeah. I love that too. So yeah, that kind of thing. That's coming up. I don't know. I'm going to try this. I probably shouldn't tell anyone this. I think I'm going to drive the golf cart to the shore. But I have a secret plan. I'll let you know. No, so
What beach?
So friends of mine organize Bend to the Shore, which is Ben Franklin Bridge to the shore. And so
is it a bike race?
It's a bike. It's not even really a race. It's more a marathon.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of that.
And I was like, hey, could the golf cart be an official support vehicle of this bike race? And I'll carry, like, you know, fruit bars and
beer,
hydration, hydration, and fully, like, so maybe that would be cool, right? And they're like, yeah, I don't see why not. I'm like, cool, all right. Because I just feel like it just seems so ridiculous, you know, like, just imagine like taking this golf cart all the way there. And I think I do 18 miles an hour, which I think is pretty close to what the mid-class bike riders do. You know, I mean, that's not like, it's not a bike race, right? It's like older people, everybody's casual bike. So that's coming up in a week, which is kind of scary to me because I haven't really tested anything. But yeah, there we go.
You need a trail car for the trail car.
So 100%. Yeah.
Cool. So I guess thank you for coming on. We can find you where at Johnny Brenda's at.
I'm there. I'm at Johnny. Yeah, I might even go to the show at Johnny Brenda's tonight.
Johnny Brenda's at Standard Tap.
Yep.
And then at
the International, which is yeah.
Cool.
front seats will be more, right? Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for telling your story. This is awesome. Thank you for everything you've done for Philadelphia beer. We've been talking about having you on for a while, so it's nice to get you in here.
Oh, great.
You're the man himself. But thank you so much.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Cool. And you can find us at Brewdat, at the Brewdat Podcast. Follow us on YouTube. Where else? Spotify. 5-star reviews. Like, reply, all that jazz. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you.